Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on assessment learning and its classroom applications. In this video, we will explore what assessment learning really means, why it's important, how it differs from other assessment models, its core features, teachers' roles, and the practical applications in the language classrooms. First, the purpose of assessment learning is truly distinct. It goes beyond simply measuring what a student knows, which is assessment of learning, or AOL, and it moves past using assessment just to inform the teacher's next steps, which is assessment for learning, or AFL. Assessment of learning is fundamentally about empowering students to become active, self-aware, and lifelong learners. The student themselves is the primary user and the driver of the assessment. In assessment learning, the main role belongs to the student, while the teacher just facilitates. Students are not just passive recipients of grades or feedback. Instead, they take charge of monitoring their own learning, reflecting on their progress, and making informed decisions about their learning journey. Now let's look at the key features of assessment of learning. First, it is student-centered. Learners actively monitor their own progress and judge what they know and can do. Second, it has a metacognitive focus. Students are encouraged to think about their own thinking, developing strategies to improve how they learn. And third, students work with clear learning goals and criteria. They know exactly what quality works look like from the start, often through rubrics or checklists. This helps them see a direct link between their actions and their outcomes. Continuing with the features, assessment of learning is also a continuous and integrated process. It happens throughout learning, not just at the end. Students also learn to use feedback and adjustments. They take the information they receive, whether from teachers, peers, or themselves, and they change their strategies accordingly. Finally, assessment of learning increases autonomy and engagement. Students who play an active role in assessment are more motivated, responsible, and engaged in their learning. So, how do we put this into practice? There are four main categories of applications we can use in the language classrooms: checklist, clear criteria, structured self reflection sheets, and the learning journals and the portfolios. Now let's check out different types of checklists. Checklists are foundational because they give students the power to self monitor. A simple writing checklist, for example, helps students improve basic writing skills. It reminds them to use capital letters, punctuation, and the finger spaces. Check spelling and reread to make sure their sentences make sense. Then the stop and check sheet. In the middle, ask questions for self-assessment. This checklist guides students to reflect on learning. It asks them what they have learned, what's still difficult, how they can apply knowledge, and what their next steps should be. The right one is a project checklist for a shadow show in one clear issued based classroom. This checklist breaks down a performance project into steps: story and script preparation, copy and prop design, stage setup, and rehearsal, helping students stay organized and complete tasks step by step. Here, I'd like to direct your attention to take a closer look at the types of criteria we can use in assessment of learning. A key principle here is transparency. By providing assessment criteria in advance, students know exactly what is expected of them, which makes the learning process fair and more focused. Now, please look at the lab table, which shows the five common criteria usually applied in language classroom. The five dimensions include linguistic, focus on accuracy and range of language use, including grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and spelling. Then communicative, it assesses fluency, cohesion, and interaction, showing how well students use language to communicate meaningfully. Then the cognitive and content. It evaluates comprehension, task achievement, and critical thinking in applying knowledge to learning tasks. Then performance based, it looks at creativity, effectiveness, and completeness in producing work or performances. The last one is affective or strategic criterion. It considers learner attitudes and strategies, such as confidence, risk taking, self correction, and persistence. On the right is a rubric example for checking students' learning outcomes of ocean education. There are three criteria: presentation of ocean issues, description of ocean protection, and the poster design and content. Each criterion comes with three level descriptors to check students' performance. Rubric like this helps students see what quality work looks like and how to improve step by step. Self-reflection charts are powerful tools to actively engage students in their own learning. They help learners think about what they already know, set goals, and evaluate their progress, leading to deeper understanding and improved performance. On the left, we see a KWL chart. Students recall what they know, what they want to know, and later what they learned. This connects prior knowledge, expectations, and learning outcomes. In the middle is the plus minus improve chart. Here students reflect on what went well, what didn't, and what could be improved next time. It encourages honest reflection and practical goal setting. On the right is the performance reflection sheet. In this example, students read their preparation and performance, explain their rating, and write down something new they learned from the activity. This type of chart makes reflection more personal and connected to specific tasks. Together, these charts give students different ways to reflect, take responsibility for their learning, and plan their next steps. Then the learning journals. Learning journals are vital as they provide students with a personal and private space to document, reflect on, and make sense of their learning journey. Here are examples of common learning journal covers and the content. Here is an example of how learning journal encourage students to explain what they are learning and why, help them connect lessons with purpose. They also guide students to think about what comes next, setting clear goals for improvement. Journals create room for curiosity, allowing students to ask questions and explore ideas more deeply. And most importantly, they help students see mistakes not as failures, but as valuable opportunities to learn and grow. Finally, portfolios, whether digital or physical, they serve the same purposes as journals to document, reflect on, and make sense of the student's learning journey. A portfolio is a collection of work that students use to track their progress and reflect on their growth over time, leading to ownership of their accomplishments. The core of assessment learning is this cyclical process focused on empowering students' learning. It begins with the student understanding the clear goals. They monitor learning and reflection on progress. Based on this reflection, they adjust strategies and finally engage autonomously, taking full responsibility for their learning. This continuous loop turns assessment into a tool for self direction and growth. Thank you for joining me in exploring assessment of learning. I hope these ideas inspire you to create more opportunities for your students to reflect, engage, and take ownership of their learning.